In this video, I want to demonstrate the feature that we added so that procurement and accounting professionals can track the deviations from the standard or reference cost. So what we did is we added a field. Already Business Central supports standard costing. So you can see that the standard cost for this item is $1. That's a standard cost. And we created another column called another field called reference cost so that this works regardless of whether a company is using standard cost or FIFO cost. There's always going to be a reference cost. And in the case of a standard cost, it just copies over that standard cost to a reference cost. Just to kind of show you, if I go into this item and modify this reference cost is a non-modifiable column when you're in standard cost. And if you change it from $1 to $2, it will actually change the reference cost as well. So I just wanted to show you that the reference cost and standard cost are the same thing when you're using standard costing. So let's just say that the standard cost is $1, and you have and you're able to set up some purchase variance limits so that the purchasing folks have to at least flag or give a reason code if they buy something beyond a certain threshold. Like for example, if the average cost per dollar per the standard cost per pound is $1, and if somebody buys it over 25% variance, they need to put a reason code or something like that. So for that, what we did is in the purchases and payables setup, we added these fields called purchase line reason code mandatory, and we put a purchase variance limit of 25%. So anything over $1.25, the purchasing folks have to put some kind of a reason code to see why they're having to buy the product for a lot higher price than what the standard cost was set to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show you in the purchase order how that looks like. So here we're buying the same item, but we're buying it in two different formats. We're buying it in a 25-pound case, and here also we're buying it in pounds. So I just want to show you that this functionality works across different units of measure, because as you can see, the original unit of measure for this item is a pound. That is the base unit of measure, but you can either buy this in pounds from your vendor, or you can even buy it in 25-pound cases. And I wanted to show that this concept work in both ways. So here in the first line, I'm buying two 25-pound cases. So I'm buying 50 pounds in the first line. And that is, again, the standard cost is $1. So the actual cost per base unit of measure is $1. And you can see that there's no variance. There's no cost variance. So we see that there's an actual cost per base unit of measure and the expected cost base unit of measure. And based on this, you're able to calculate the cost variance. So you can see that because you're buying 25 pounds for $25, it is a standard, the actual cost and the expected cost are the same. But if I change this to $30, then it basically will recalculate the actual cost base unit of measure, and it'll say that, oh, you're buying it at a cost variance of 20% over the standard cost. So, and then if you're buying it directly in pounds, then, say for example, you're buying it for $1.10 per pound, then you're basically buying it at a cost variance of 10%. The other thing we've also done is that, say for example, instead of buying it for $30, say for example, if I buy it for $50, so now I'm buying it at a much, or let's just say $40, for example. So now I'm buying it at a much higher cost variance. So I'm almost buying it at a 60% cost variance. And that is something that needs to be flagged. We need to understand, like, why is the purchaser having to buy it at that deviation of the cost? So even if I try to release this or create a warehouse receipt, the system will basically flag saying that, hey, I need to make sure that because you're buying it over the 25% limit, you need to give a reason code. So you can go into the reason code and basically have to explicitly say, hey, I had to do a rush order because, we did not order in time, so I had to do a rush order or something like that. So then it'll let you release this purchase order. So that way we're creating some kind of a workflow automation and flagging something that should have been bought a long time ago. So based on this, let's go ahead and receive the item here. So I'm going to go ahead and create the warehouse receipt. And I'm just going to I'm not going to use the mobile apps. I'm just going to go ahead and hard code the lot numbers directly from the app here. So if I go to the item tracking line, I'm just going to put the 10 pounds over there. And I'm going to go ahead and post the receipt. All right. So at this point of time, the vendor sends you an invoice. So I'm just going to basically go ahead and put the vendor invoice number, and I'm going to go ahead and post this. And before I post it, I know that like I ordered two of these 25-pound cases, and I can see that the quantity received is now matching. So I'm just going to go ahead and post it. So the advantage of doing this is that we can do really good analysis. Like if I go into the posted sales invoices, posted purchase invoice lines, and I basically look at these lines, the advantage is that just by looking at the posted purchase invoice lines, I'm able to tell, okay, here, the unit cost was supposed to be, the standard or expected unit cost was supposed to be $1. We bought it for $1.10. So that's, cost variance of 10%. And here we were supposed to buy it for $25, but we bought it for $40, and that's a cost variance of 60%. And we also know that the system enforces if the cost variance goes about 25%, that somebody has to put like a reason code. So just by looking at the posted purchase lines, we have it tells a lot of story about whether our purchasing folks are buying, well ahead on schedule, or they're having to do a lot of last minute rush orders, or the market is fluctuating up and down. So there are several reason codes that you can track saying that, hey, this was a rush order, or it was a short, this particular ingredient was in short supply, or the market was just fluctuating. For example, maybe it's a cost of inflation right now, this temporary inflation because of the Iran conflict, but you're able to track all of that just by looking at this one table going forward.